Hi, I'm Ronnie from Ronnie's Garage. This is our monthly tech meet, and we're going to be working on Silver Shadow height control components.
Where you turn the car upside down.
Yeah. So the flat spots on the top.
Scottish.
Oh, see, I started something now. And not to offend the Scots, maybe it's Ray's way. How's that? Poor Ray. He's really a good sport. I remember him bringing that Daimler of his in here.
Ronnie has never forgiven me for bringing a Daimler into his sacred precinct.
My sacred precinct. I like that. Can I use that? Ronnie's sacred precinct.
That sounds good.
Yeah, sounds special.
I once suggested that Ronnie use my Daimler as something of a technical seminar to show an alternative approach to motor car design, but he shooed that idea away so quick you would have thought I was a wasp at a picnic.
Thought I was a wasp at a picnic. I like that.
Great. Yeah.
You're not from around here, are you? Okay, so let's see if I can put all this stuff back in now that I created my little can of worms. So I'm going to hotwire this thing once we get it all back together. So this one on here, there was a spacer washer way down, and if you look in there, it's kind of a long way down there. And the orifice over here is small.
Do you ever check for freedom of that piston movement before you put it back together? Or?
Well, you can, but once you put it in there, it's spring loaded. I've never messed with any adjustments. I'm afraid. And I learned a long time ago, just because there's an adjuster doesn't mean you should adjust it.
The hard way.
Yeah, that's the hard way, definitely. There we go. Still spring loaded. So here's what we're going to do. We just so happen to have a battery right here. And now see, it's not going to click now until it gets to a certain point. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put it together and adjust it. So we're almost there. All you got to do is replace your O-ring. Maybe put a little lube on it. Make sure that's in there. Screw it in. And the adjustment procedure is back your lock nut off, adjust it in till it seats. This is right there. Right, so this is loose, but this is just seated. You run this down till it's flush against this. I'm pretty sure it's 20 thousandths. So we got a 20 thousandths feeler gauge right there. And this is the tricky part. You have to back this with the lock nut out at the same time. Okay? And then you adjust it to 20 thousandths clearance. Okay? So you're backing this center piston off 20 thousandths essentially. And you're using that lock nut. You could use a dial indicator, all that kind of stuff, but it's just much easier to do it this way. And that's there's locked. So now we should be able to get it to clunk. And the polarity doesn't matter on. Whoa! Oh, I'm already touching it. That's why. But you heard it, right?
Yeah.
So that's a clunk you're hearing. And remember, when this is mounted to the car, not only are you going to hear that little click, which is not that much, but you got hydraulic pressure on it. So it's going to be much more pronounced. And if you have air in the system, it's going to be much, much more pronounced, causing all those interesting sounds I was making earlier. So that's the height control solenoid. Any questions?
So this is not a flow-through system, it's just a back and forth, or if you had air trap, how do you bleed it out?
Well, you put it on fast action, so you're getting a maximum amount of volume. You bleed these out and get.
Break the fitting, or where do you
No.
use the bleeder?
What you do is you go. You got a cord you can go under the car here? I can point out some things. Let me go grab my pointer. We're going to go under the car and I'll show you stuff. All right, your height control solenoid's right here. Okay, it's center on the subframe. So as you can see, the way it's mounted, if you pull this plug out and you don't activate that up there, it could fall out. Okay, and it's just much more difficult to put back together. One of your height control valves is over here. There's the left one, and you can see it's attached to this trailing arm, and that goes up and down. Okay. Here's oh no. There's one of those restrictor valves. No, where'd it go? We got one here and one here. The two restrictor valves. Okay, this one's obviously pretty easy to get to. This one's a little harder to get with the lines. Your other height control valve is here. So there's one for each trailing arm. So if you get more weight on one side, it should lift that side up higher. The hydraulic lines all go to the rams on top of the piston. Now on top of the spring. On top of the spring is just like a big housing, and then it has like a ram, which is going to be a hydraulic cylinder that has two lines going to it. Essentially, one line goes to the bleeder to let the air out, and one line comes from the height control valve. So when you activate that valve, it's just going to fill that cylinder, and then you bleed it out. Now on the later shadows, the bleeders are here, right in this nice, easy to get to area. This bleeder right here that points to the inside of the car goes to this ram. The other bleeder goes to the other ram. So when you put the system together, before you adjust it, you run the car and then you bleed these. The bleeding process involves activating the valve. That valve, when it's not activated, it will feel pretty free. And then you start moving that arm up and you'll feel resistance. And you push that resistance and you're letting that fluid in. And you can watch the spring pushing down. The spring starts to shrink. It can be dangerous because there are some straps that hold these trailing arms. They're called rebound straps, and they hold it to a certain level when you lift the car. Now, I've had one of those straps break before when I was under it, and it hit me in the shoulder, and fortunately it stopped because everything else held it. So you want to make sure that those things aren't broken or rusty. Usually the wheel will come down further if they're rusty. So you go back and forth and you bleed those things out until you really can't hear any funny noises. And then the process of adjusting it comes in. And it's really hard to show it on this without being able to do it. But you have to adjust that arm. We can go back over there and look at that arm. And we'll use... So essentially, when this is mounted on the car, this is going to be hooked to that. There's a little ball in that trailing arm. Just imagine that, okay? This is hooked in there. And the car, you got to do it while the car's on the ground. And I don't do it right after I sit it on the ground. I usually back the car up and then pull forward. Backing up the car causes the front suspension to do weird things, so it changes the position of the car. I always pull forward so it relaxes into its normal driving position. So while the car's running, which it's really hard to do without the right kind of rack, you crawl under the car, you disconnect this, all right? And then you find that sweet spot to where you feel that resistance. You'll feel it. When it's running, you can feel it. It feels real easy, and all of a sudden it gets hard. So what you want, and then I usually push it, make sure it goes up, and I back off till I find that hard spot again. So my adjustment, which is the Ronnie method, is that it doesn't activate. You don't hit that hard spot until it goes past this far past the ball. So you want to, I like a full ball free play, and that will take into consideration. First of all, you don't want it activating because the driver's in it. It should be pretty normal time. So it's really hard to show you, but just imagine this is on the car, and you find that hard spot, You want to adjust either by loosening this or adjusting this link, or the ball on the car is slotted too. Adjust it so it doesn't hit that hard spot until it's just past the ball. Not before the ball, because then you're riding it on it all the time. You want it to hit the hard spot in the hydraulics, that resistance, just past the ball. And that seems to work the best for me. There is a procedure in the factory manual where you are to put 800 pounds in the car, whatever it is, load it all up, and you're supposed to do it on a drive-up rack, and that's where you set it. But that's kind of a pain in the butt, in my opinion. So this is just what I've used for years. I was taught that, and that's how I do it, and it works. So typically, when a car is running, if you want to check the operation of the system, you can get a couple people on the trunk, and that'll do it. You should feel it all of a sudden start to lift, and then it'll stop, because it'll hit that spot where it wants to live. And then as soon as you get off of the trunk, you'll watch it'll go up real quick, and then it'll drop down back to its normal height. That's how you can test it manually. Questions? Awesome.
Very good.
I think we're done. Thanks for joining us.
Cool.